So France are the first team to announce their side for round 2 of the Six Nations. And when I looked at Le 15 de France, I thought, merde. Oh dear. They are stacked. Empile, I've got no idea. That's the literal translation, English to French. I've got no idea if it translates in context. But bottom line is, this squad is absolutely packed full of talent. 2 changes only from the 23. I thought there might be 1 or 2 more, but only the 1 enforced change, and that's Jalibert and Dupont being suspended. So Matthew Jalibert comes in at fly half, as expected. And then the only other change is an upgrade. As good as Teo Atasogbe was on Friday night last week against Wales, Jalibert and Penaud is one of the best wingers in the world. And it's a frightening back three with Ramos and Lebip as well. So, they are stacked. They are stacked. I'll get into the whole Jalibert and Dupont thing in just a minute. And some of the chinks in the armour that I think there might be that England could exploit. First, I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers. And if you haven't already, I would love it if I would earn your subscription. I'm going to be at Twickenham this weekend. I'll be in amongst the fans. I'll be bringing you loads of content from the Six Nations across the weekend. So hit subscribe so you don't miss any of it. Leave your comment down below. I think one of the bits of context here that the English, particularly the English media, need to recognise is whatever happened. Well, at the full-time whistle on Saturday evening, just need to consider the gulf there is between these two teams in talent. At the very top end, small differences make big differences to the actual outcomes of games. And at the top end, England have got very good players, but they do not have as players with as high a ceiling and as many of them as there are in this French 23. And that is a French 23 without Flamont, without Olivon, without Fickou and Dupont. And to put that in context, imagine Steve Borthwick couldn't pick, what would the equivalent be? Imagine Steve Borthwick couldn't pick Maro Itoje, Ben Earl, Marcus Smith or Ollie Lawrence. Suddenly that England team's looking a bit threadbare by comparison. And I don't have a bit of a downer on England, but I just think there's some context required in this because I know it's wearing a little bit thin with Steve Borthwick, though. We're on a journey and we want to go out and represent the badge and work hard. And we've got a very young team, very, very young team. And they're getting better and we're going to do our best. I know that's wearing thin and results have to come at some point. But I honestly don't think England are that far off. But playing this 23-man squad, we saw what they did at Twickenham 2 years ago. It's a very different challenge whatsoever. That said, we saw what England did last year when they just took it to France. And like to some degree, the shackles came off and they got at them. And England can be dangerous, but can they win this one? I don't know. They can. Will they? I'm not expecting them to. As for that and Dupont and Jalibert discussion then, let's get into that just a second. So I have another channel called FR UK Rugby, where with former England World Cup winner Joe Worsley, who is a coach at Brive at the moment, and he's been a coach in France for the last decade. So he knows a thing or two about French rugby. And the two of us look at, with a French eye on things, we look at rugby with a bit of a French focus. And we did a bit of a deep dive into Jalibert and Dupont. And why is it that Galthié doesn't seem to fancy picking Jalibert? Because for what it's worth, I would have to say I think Jalibert is probably the better fly half overall. But is he better for France? Look at the stats. And as I say, go and have a look on, I'll leave a link in the description. Go and have a look at the video, deep dive into Jalibert and Dupont. But the headlines, some of the stats from their club matches, Jalibert for Bordeaux and Dupont for Toulouse. Jalibert makes almost double the number of try assists, almost double the number of carries, more than double the carry percentage in terms of the spread of his play, makes more than double the meters, more than treble the line breaks, and more than treble defenders beaten. So point being, this might be why he doesn't get picked for France. And had France had Romain Burros or Leo Beret available at fullback, I think Ramos would be starting 10. And the reason is, Matthew Jalibert, when he plays, he's the main man. He's the alpha in his team for Bordeaux. Everything goes through him. Luku's job as scrum half is just to feed Jalibert, and he's the one that makes all the decisions. He's the one that makes the runs, and everyone reacts to him. How would that work with France? Well, I don't think so well when you've got Antoine Dupont in your team, and which is what Romain Ntamack does for Toulouse. Now, he's a brilliant player. Romain Ntamack is quick as well. He's elusive. He can run. He can kick. He's got amazing hands. Just a fantastic player, but he's a systems guy. He plays the role that Toulouse and France need him to, which is just to be there to be an out for Dupont when it's needed. And Dupont is the main man. He's the alpha in this French team. He's the main playmaker. And that Jalibert Dupont thing, that might be why it doesn't work. So I'm really interested to see how that goes. Like I say, go and have a look at the other video I've already done in the other channel, a bit more of a deep dive on that one. But back to the French team, I do think there are a couple of little chinks in the armour. Alexander Roumat, was not convinced by him at lock at all. He's a back row. Is he a square peg in a round hole while Flamont's out? Maybe. I don't think he'll be as bad as he was against Wales again. He got better, and he does a lot of things really well, but can England get after him at the line-out time? Possibly. I think England have to compete. And also, Georges-Henri Colombe on the bench. I'm not convinced by him. I thought Tavita Tatafu may come back in. I mean, Colombe does a load of things amazingly well. Scrummaging, not so much. Can he get after him? Maybe. Is Finn Baxter the guy that's going to go after Colombe? That remains to be seen. And I think the other weakness of France, if they have one, is aerially. They're not good. Romain Burros and Leo Barret are much better, but they're not available. Ramos is at the back there. It's not his strength. I mean, these players are... When I talk about weaknesses of Jalibert, Penaud and Ramos, they're wild on the counter-attack. So if you kick poorly, if you give them any space, it's over. Game over. They will shred you. And Ramos' kicking game's pretty well. So I think England have to kick to compete, to try and win the territorial battle. I think they have to go for bombs and have to get big guys underneath it. Just like South Africa did in the World Cup quarter-final. They recognised that weakness, and it got them some key territory and tries. Look at a couple of the tries for South Africa in that quarter-final came directly from some bombs that went up. I know it's something France are aware of and working on, but they're not there yet. And look, this is the final thing. If you had access, and we get Steve Borthwick's England team in a few hours, if you had access to every player from the England squad, who would you actually swap in to this French team to improve it? Because there's not many. At best, right? This is like, at best, that's what it looks like. Definitely you'd bring a Itoje in, no question. He'd come in 100%. The other two I've got in the starting lineup are debatable. I think Ollie Lawrence had a good game last week. He did lots of good things. There's some things he does not quite so well. Defensively, possibly. And Barassi looks quite an all-round player, but I'd probably bring him in. And then Tom Curry, Paul Boudehon is really good, but let's say Tom Curry. So at best, you've got 3 Englishmen. Possibly Marcus Smith, a 4th one, maybe, potentially. It's interesting that Marcus Smith was the guy that the French journalists seemed to be talking to Galthie a lot about in the French press conference. I only speak a little bit of French, un petit peu, but I understood the thrust of what they were going on about, and they were talking about Marcus Smith a lot and the threat that he brings and how they're going to try and neutralise that. So maybe Marcus Smith as well. But you're talking at best 4 English players in a French 15. Probably 2, 3, maybe 4 at push. And that's the context here. England just aren't as good man for man. They just do not have the talent man for man. Some areas England are actually match them quite well. Back row, England will match them well. But other areas, not so much. Front row, centre. The elite talent on the wings. France, well, from an attacking perspective. So I just hope England fans and English media recognise this, because I think it was the same against Ireland at the weekend. There seemed to be some expectation that we're annoyed. How on earth could England not win away in Dublin against the back-to-back Six Nations champions? I think the perspective is gone, and I think it's needed. I'm not expecting England to win. We'll see. I think they can if they play a smart tactical battle and France have a bit of an off day, but not expecting it. Those are my thoughts. We'll see. I'll do another video when Steve Borthwick announces his team, which I think is due at 2 o'clock UK time. So I'll be there with the video straight after that. In the meantime, leave your comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.